You are now watching the True Mets Talk podcast live stream. We will be going live shortly. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the channel.
Down the right field, stumbling start for Stewart. It's close to deep left field by Alvarez. He's homered in 4 straight games for the second time in his. He's homered in 4.
I started off this stream on the wrong foot. I started off on mute. My apologies. What is up, everyone? And welcome back to the True Mets Talk podcast, Spring Training Live. We're going to be talking about the New York Mets Game 5 against the St. Louis Cardinals, a shutout win, 3-0 in the books. And we're going to be talking all about our game notes. It's going to be a very quick, casual conversation. If you all didn't tune into the live stream last night that I recapped games 3 and 4 in, make sure you go check that out, and make sure you go check out all the rest of the content on the channel, whether you're a Mets fan or whether you're a Knicks fan. Some new Knicks content is out there as well. I got Darren checking into the chat here. I appreciate you. I got Junior in here as well saying, what's up, CP, and the chat. I appreciate you all. I appreciate all the support. Thank you so much. We're going to be getting into it just a second, but as always, make sure you all are hitting that thumbs up button, subscribing to the channel, and if you know anybody that likes Mets content and likes the New York Mets in general, throw them over my way on this channel. And as always, all opinions are welcome here. Make sure you prop up the chat. Make sure you go hit the chat, prop up your comments, and I will go ahead and put them up on the screen and we'll talk about it. And also, I do have the channel membership option for you all, so become a channel member today. Okay, let's talk about it. Like I said, we have the New York Mets versus the St. Louis Cardinals here, spring training game 5. The New York Mets are winners by a score of 3-0 to improve to 4-1 on spring training so far. You see the little bit of a shortened version of a box score on the left-handed side of your screen. And then at the tail end, I want to talk about Brett Baty and sort of assess his spring so far, because I do have a little bit of notes to say on to talk about on Brett Baty. But you can see here at the top of your screen, we're going to start from top to bottom. This is a very, I guess, lackadaisical game. It flew by for me. I was hosting a space on X. I'm not sure if you all were able to check that out. Shout out if you tuned in. But if you didn't, I will be hosting more spaces in game, especially in spring training. So make sure you looking out for that on my X account at CPNY Sports. You know where to find me. I was talking during this game, and it just seemed like it flew by. An hour and 59 minutes. These spring training games are going by so quickly, but a lot of guys did impress me today, and they have impressed me throughout the spring training so far. Alex Ramirez is a guy that I've talked about on this channel. I talked about him yesterday. I even made a standalone video for Alex Ramirez. Well, actually, I put Kevin Parada in that same video. But nonetheless, I talked about Alex Ramirez even before these live action spring training games started. And he was a prospect that I had thought that he was due for a resurgence in 2024, and he is still due for that resurgence in 2024. He gets a base knock today, 1 for 2. He is impressing me. I mean, there's no other way to say it. Alex Ramirez is impressing me in this spring training. He's 21 years old. He put on 25 to 26 pounds over the last year, and we're starting to see him finally come to fruition and become comfortable again. He had a great 2022 campaign. Everyone thought that he was going to get promoted to Double-A, and then he struggled in high A-ball Brooklyn. We'll see where the Mets place him. If I had to guess, he's going to go back out there and start in high A Brooklyn, but expect, especially if he starts off hot in 2024, expect that Double-A promotion. Listen, the Mets outfield prospects are what they are. It's not as plentiful as these infield prospects. You talk about an outfield in the Mets minor league system of Drew Gilbert, Ryan Clifford. You have talks about Jet Williams potentially making that transition over to center field. And then you have Alex Ramirez. And after that, it really isn't too pretty at this point. It's not as plentiful as the Mets infielders in the system. So we all know that it is what it is. And a guy like Alex Ramirez, regardless if he sticks around this organization, obviously he was a trade piece candidate back in that 2022 season when the Mets were winning left and right in that 101 game season. 101 win game season. Alex Ramirez is thought of as a guy that could be a centerpiece in that trade package. You all know that. I know that. And quite frankly, with how crowded this Mets roster is going to be in the coming years with these prospects, we'll see what happens with Alex Ramirez. But to write this kid off is absolutely insane to me. I really don't know what else to say. He struggled in his age 20 season. Now he's 21. He's not some 24, 25-year-old prospect that should be making the major leagues right now. And if he doesn't, he's a bust. This guy has some time to develop. And I fully think we're going to see that next step from Alex Ramirez here in 2024. So yeah, that's what I think on Alex Ramirez. Another hit. Lindor has put some good swings on the ball in this spring training. Gets another hit. I believe it was a single from the left-handed side. He pulled it. It was a nice little rip. I like Lindor's swings. I like what we're getting from Lindor in terms of the play. He looks comfortable very early on. I think the main piece here is seeing how Francisco Lindor comes out of spring training in that first half of the season. We all know, and it's not a secret, that Lindor is a perpetual second half player in the season. That means post All-Star break, he really turns it on. We saw it this past year as a prime example. I want to see Francisco Lindor put a thorough season together from start to finish because, honestly, we're talking about him as the best, or arguably maybe one of the best shortstops in baseball. Like, it's not arguable. He is one of the best shortstops in baseball, but arguably the best shortstop in baseball with him only turning it on in the second half. Imagine if he puts together a complete season. And he hit 30-plus home runs last season while only turning it up in the second half. So imagine from day one in April, or I should say March, that opening weekend, he turns it on and he has a complete season. We're talking about a shortstop that can hit upwards of high 30s to low 40s in terms of the home run category. I mean, seriously, he has that type of potential in the prime of his career right now. He has that type of potential. And the glove, we all know we're getting out of Francisco Lindor with the glove. That's not my worry at all. I want to see Francisco Lindor keep up these good swings because regardless if the result is a base hit or not right now for Francisco Lindor, I see him as being comfortable in that box. I see him as being comfortable in that plate, at the plate. And I don't see that from Brett Baty. And we'll get into that in just a second. It's a night and day difference of approach. And that's something that I definitely wanted to touch on. Moving forward here, you all know, like, this is something where you don't even have to sort of talk about these guys that impressed us from today because it was just clear as day right in front of our faces. Pete Alonso and Trayce Thompson. Which one should we talk about first? Because they are both absolutely killing it in this spring training. I believe Trayce Thompson's hitting 571 and Alonso's up to 667 in these first 5 games. It's absolutely unreal. So we'll talk about those guys here in just a second. Like I said, if you are here, make sure you hit that thumbs up for me. I thoroughly appreciate it. It helps the podcast grow. I appreciate the support. Make sure you keep hitting the live chat. I'm going to prop up some comments here, give some shout outs. I definitely appreciate all the support. Like I said, continue to rock with me. And we have a little bit of a poll. If you guys missed the poll on my channel in the community tab, go ahead and make sure you hit on that option answer over there in the community tab. I want to hear your thoughts about maybe some in-game live streams here in a second. Eric Chavez, the magic from him is working. Yes, absolutely. This is something that I said in the live stream yesterday, Junior, where he went around and was apologizing to each Mets hitter that was present. I don't even know why he was apologizing. It wasn't his fault. I know he took on a larger role. That was a promotion from him. I certainly at that point in 2023 thought that he still had a little bit to do with the hitting because I was just like, there's no way you go from 2022 as the hitting coach and having all that success and go to 2023 with a new hitting coach in Jeremy Barnes. And you're telling me that Jeremy Barnes completely took over and had and gave Eric Chavez no input? Like, I don't know if I buy that, but nonetheless, these guys just need to perform better. And we'll see how that working dynamic between Eric Chavez and Jeremy Barnes works. But we're already seeing it in the approach. Like, you're exactly right, Junior. And this is something that I want to sort of speak on because we see this opposite field approach from these hitters. You look at the large majority of these base hits that are coming from the New York Mets. I mean, I'm talking about guys like Trayce Thompson on his home run went to dead center, right? He didn't pull the ball, but he went dead center. Pete Alonso has been doing a nice job of keeping that opposite field approach. Alex Ramirez, the guy that we just talked about, he has 4 to 5 opposite field hits already this spring training. I think it's 3 or 4 actually, but nonetheless, you get what I'm getting at. Jose Iglesias, same thing. These guys are prioritizing the opposite field, and that is what I like. If the Mets are going to be successful top to bottom in this lineup, especially the younger guys, they need to start taking the ball where it's pitched, and it can't just be pull, 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 pull. So if that is on Eric Chavez and he's been working with these guys in terms of implementing that approach here early, then props to him. He deserves all the props in the world, and hopefully we get a resemblance of that 2022 season from this lineup. I want to say what's up to Robert. I appreciate it, as well as Jay. 550 subs. Nice. Yes, Jay. The amount of support that I've gotten on this channel, thanks to you all in the chat and anybody that's going to be tuning in after this live is done, has been immense. It's been awesome, and I have you all to thank for it. I would not be up here continuing to do these podcasts, these live streams without your support, so I thoroughly appreciate it. I want to make sure that is clear with you all. Thank you so much for the support. But yeah, Trayce Thompson, listen, let's talk about this last bench spot on this Mets team that we have a competition now for. DJ Stewart has been the talk of the town all offseason. Okay, we know that Mark Vientos is probably going to get primary DH at bats this season in 2024, but who is, if anybody, going to be that platoon guy with Mark Vientos? Everybody has been talking about DJ Stewart. Everyone's like, he's a shoo-in. He's the lefty that can play the platoon. Well, I'm here to tell you that may not be the case. It is not as simple as that, and I'll tell you why. One, I've already been over this numerous times on the channel. There's going to be 3 lefties on the bench if you put in DJ Stewart there to complement Joey Wendell and Omar Narvaez on that bench. Tyrone Taylor would be your lone righty. Okay. If the Mets prioritize that and they're cool with that, okay, cool. DJ Stewart, you're up. But if they don't like that, then this is where the steam and the momentum of Trayce Thompson is starting to form in my mind. And honestly, I know this is spring training at the end of the day. I know we're only 5 games in and the sample size hasn't been there. I understand that. I'm here talking to you all with the sample size that I have to go off of. And you're talking about a guy in Trayce Thompson that had a tremendous half a season with the Dodgers in 2022. You go back and look at that. He hit 250, 260 with 13 home runs in 74 games at the Dodgers there. He had a really down 2023. I understand that. But if you take a look at Trayce Thompson's numbers in depth, go to his Baseball Savant page. I already researched this. I already looked it up. His splits, lefty versus righty, when they're on the mound, he does better against right-handed pitching. He simply does. And so if you're talking about a platoon of DJ Stewart and wanting that lefty to complement Mark Vientos for the sole reason of hitting righties, well, wouldn't it make sense to just mitigate that and put Trayce Thompson out there if he hits righties well as well? If he hits righties more efficiently as well? So it's not always about left-handed batter versus right-handed pitcher or right-handed batter versus left-handed pitcher. When we talk about these matchups, go look at the numbers in depth. Trayce Thompson, as a right-handed hitter, has better numbers against right-handed pitching. And honestly, you can make the case the same thing for Mark Vientos. I've mentioned that a couple times on this channel as well. Mark Vientos just barely has better numbers, better split numbers against righties than lefties. But like I said, the sample size wasn't there in 2023. We'll see if that holds true in 2024. But also, like I said, are the Mets committed to Mark Vientos as the sole DH? And I'm talking about no platoon at that point. Are they committed to Mark Vientos as the sole DH with no platoon? Chat, let me know what you all think. Would you all be comfortable come opening day to trot out Mark Vientos without another quote-unquote DH type bat? Let me know, because honestly, I don't think Trayce Thompson is going to be making the opening day roster as a DH. I simply don't think that. So maybe that opens the door for a Ji-Man Choi, because honestly, at this point, another name in Ji-Man Choi that's entering that conversation for the last bench spot, more of your strict DH type guy, but also can play a backup first base when Pete Alonso needs a day off. I would quite simply take Ji-Man Choi right now over DJ Stewart as well. And it's no harm, no foul, because you have DJ Stewart and he has an option available to go back to the minor leagues. It's no harm, no foul. He's making his money. He got his contract tendered, and he can come up at any point in the season. Let's say if a Mark Vientos is struggling, or a Ji-Man Choi, if he makes it, is struggling, and they want to release him and DFA him, you still have DJ Stewart as a fallback option. These are just all options that the Mets front office is taking into consideration right now. And I think us as fans, as we watch these games, we have to take a look at the processes, and we have to take a look at the roster construction. Now, me sitting up here and talking about potential roster construction, competition, and all the variables at play, it's very, very hard. It's very hard for me to predict what David Stearns in this front office is going to prioritize and get a feel for that. I'm simply up here delving into each realistic possibility. So bear with me here. But yeah, Trayce Thompson, like I said, 2 for 2 today, had a double right off the gates, had a double, pull side, and then he hit that home run dead center off the batter's eye in center field. That was a bomb. Trayce Thompson, brother of Klay Thompson, I guess the second splash brother when Steph Curry's out of the equation, is here, and he's making his presence felt in this Mets organization right now. And more power to him. He's 32 years old, in the prime of his career, can play still some solid defense. I feel like his range is not going to be what it once was. He has a little bit of an above average arm, but we're not here for his defense. If he has any promise with that bat, I would like to see him at least get a shot, a serious consideration at that opening day lineup. Yeah, Darren, absolutely. This is what I'm talking about. Mets going the other way early and often. And I love it because that is especially integral for guys like Brett Baty and Mark Vientos to be able to do on a consistent basis. That is the key to their success, I feel like, personally, and watching their at-bats. And I'll talk about it here in just a second. But Pete Alonso, man, we cannot sit there and witness today's game, this shutout for the New York Mets, without talking about Pete Alonso, right? I mean, we just can't. We just can't. Going into his free agent contract season, the New York Mets and Steve Cohen have let everybody know that they will let Pete Alonso test free agency, and they will play it by ear. For one reason or another, whether you agree with it or you don't, it doesn't matter. That's what's happening. Unless by some miracle, the Mets are just blowing smoke at us fans and the rest of the MLB and getting their hopes up of Pete Alonso hitting the market, it looks like he will be hitting the market. Now, that's not to say he's leaving or the Mets don't have confidence in him as a first base option for the foreseeable future. That's not what it says at all to me. This is a Aaron Judge 2.0 situation unfolding right before our very eyes. Right before our very eyes. And we can see the same thing happen with Pete Alonso coming back to the New York Mets, even though he does go out there and test free agency. Listen, for simple fact of the matter, I'm not sure if you all heard the new Mets podcast with Howie Rose. I guess they changed podcast platforms as the quote-unquote official podcast of the New York Mets. But Howie Rose interviewed Steve Cohen a couple days ago, and they got on this topic of Pete Alonso. And Steve Cohen had the perfect answer. First off, he addressed the fans, saying he is not tone deaf when it comes to the Pete Alonso conversation and what fans are saying. He is not tone deaf, and he does see Pete Alonso as the future first baseman for this team. But he also said that, and he kind of made it seem, he didn't quite state it to our face. He said he's going to let more or less Pete Alonso hit free agency, and he hopes that Pete Alonso forces his hand in terms of giving him a mega contract. Again, this is Spark Notes. This is not direct quotes, but this is more or less what I got from the interview. He said he hopes Pete Alonso goes out there, hits 50 to 55 home runs, and forces Steve Cohen's hand to give him what he wants. He's hoping for that to happen. Let's not forget that Steve Cohen has the bag. He has any bag that he wants to give to any player he wants. Now, we also heard these rumors, these Mets for Clicks articles from reporters saying, oh, the Mets are going to highly prioritize both Alonso and Soto if he hits the open market. Guys, I've been talking about Soto for quite some time here. Let's not get ahead of ourselves in the Juan Soto discussion. When that bridge comes, we will cross it. Because at this point, I'm worried about 2024 when it comes to the New York Mets and this outfield makeup. Juan Soto, obviously, you got to go after him and offer him the bag if the Yankees fumble that and they don't re-sign him. But I'm worried about locking up Pete Alonso. If Steve Cohen finds it within his wallet to go after Alonso and Juan Soto, yeah, of course you do that. And the Mets are right back to being World Series contenders after maybe a trade for another arm. Yes, absolutely. And that's how I foresee the 2025 offseason shaking out. But Pete Alonso, if he goes out there, we all know he hit 217, 219 last season with 40-plus home runs. We all understand that. If he goes out there and puts up a typical Pete Alonso season, 100-plus RBIs, maybe we're talking about 115, 120, 40-plus home runs, maybe even 50 if we're lucky, but he also gets that average up to 250 or 260, honestly, I would even take 240. If you're a batting average watcher, I'm on the fence whether I like batting average as the tell-all marker for a player, because I think it says I think it tells you somewhat of what the player's season was looking like, but it doesn't tell you all. But nonetheless, people want to see a higher batting average, understandably so, especially after a 217 type season from Alonso. He goes out there and does that, he's getting his bag. And if you know my stance on Pete Alonso, the projections that I am projecting him at in terms of his contract is 8 years, $240 million. I don't think he's going to take a 6-year deal, although I would prefer that. I think it's going to take 8 years at the maximum. For me, I think that that's my perfect sweet spot for Pete Alonso. 8 years, $240 million. That's an even $30 million a year to make him the highest paid first baseman, which should satisfy him and Scott Boras both. What do you all think? What are the projections for you all? What are the projections? I don't think he's sniffing $300 million. I don't think he's sniffing $300 million. And the free agent market is going to hurt him because also you don't have just Pete Alonso hitting the open market. You have Paul Goldschmidt. I know he's 36 years old, going on 37, a little bit older, but that's a fallback option for teams that might not land Pete Alonso. That might force teams not to open up their bag fully for Pete Alonso. You have Christian Walker as well, who's still in the prime of his career. I believe he's 32 years old to go out there and sign. You have also Anthony Rizzo as that fourth first base option hitting the market. So it's not like teams won't have their options at first baseman. So we'll see how it plays out. That's a little sort of rant that I wanted to go on in terms of Pete Alonso. Jay's saying, hope Pete has a monster year and makes Cohen pay up big. Yeah, Steve Cohen was very transparent that he hopes the same. He was very, very transparent about that. And I like to hear that from the Mets owner. A lot of people are calling him out. They're saying that he tricked us. Who did he trick? The Yankees just did this with Aaron Judge and were successful in doing it. Why can't the Mets? They just did it with Brandon Nimmo and re-signed him successfully to a contract that was above what we should have paid for Brandon Nimmo, but they made it happen. Why can't they do it again? Be real, guys. Be real. That's all I'm asking you all as Mets fans. Even if you do lean towards the negative side and the pessimistic side, that's fine. I'm not telling you how to fan, but be real as a Mets fan and notice trends. This has happened before and it can happen again. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, Daniel, I know we have to see the numbers from Pete Alonso this season before we can put an actual number down. But like I said, I think that even if he has a down year, honestly, I would have re-signed him even after this year, which is considered a down year because he hit 217. He was still over 100-plus RBIs, and he was still at 40-plus home runs. What more do you want out of your power bat? I know 217 isn't pretty, but it's not the end-all, be-all. $30 million is very fair. Yeah, Daniel, $30 million is very fair. Very fair. A lot of people already don't think that he should be paid higher than Freddie Freeman or Matt Olson. I don't think you can compare the contracts of those two guys versus Pete Alonso. Multiple different factors on why I think that, but the Spark Notes version is make him the highest paid first baseman. If I had to guess, Vladimir Guerrero, after Pete Alonso gets his contract, is going to break whatever Pete Alonso gets because this is what happens. Agents and teams pay up, and these contracts are on the rise. So you can't compare what someone made yesterday to what someone else is going to make tomorrow at the same position, especially if we're talking about the cream of the crop at each position. So we'll see. DJ Stewart 0 for 2. And Mark Vientos and Brett Baty both taking offers today. Vientos 0 for 3 and Baty 0 for 2. Listen, like I said, if there is any competition for the Mets third base position between Vientos and Baty, neither of these guys are grasping the bulls by the horn here, and it seems like neither wants to win it with their bat. I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed so far. I know it's very early, and I'm giving these guys time, but let's be honest here. Let's keep it simple. The Mets don't have enough roster flexibility to walk into this season without Brett Baty being the baseman. Regardless of what happens this spring training, it is spring training at the end of the day. Whatever happens, Brett Baty is still going to be your third baseman, and Mark Vientos is still going to be your DH. I firmly believe that. But I need to see these guys taking better swings and better approaches at the plate. I'm actually a little bit more impressed with Mark Vientos and his swings that he's putting on the ball than I am Brett Baty. And if I wasn't, then I'd have Mark Vientos here on the right-handed side of my screen rather than Brett Baty, because I don't like what I'm seeing from Brett Baty at all. Mark Vientos, his swings are serviceable. We expect more, and I think we're going to get more from Mark Vientos. And you see each clip, like it's a miracle to me. Each clip between innings, you see Mark Vientos talking to Darryl Strawberry. Did y'all notice that? Did y'all notice that? I saw it at least 2 or 3 times in the broadcast when they cut to the dugout. Mark Vientos chopping it up with Darryl Strawberry. I wonder what they can be talking about. But before we continue on here, like I said, I got about another 20 minutes on this stream, maybe even less. I'm not going to go too deep into it today. I want you all to go ahead right now. You all watching, if you're subscribed, go to the community tab of my channel. I propped up this poll that you see on your screen here. I'm going to be doing a lot more polls. I'm thinking about doing a Mets in-game live stream next Wednesday when I get back into town. Mets versus Astros spring training, doing some live commentary. I already got some replies here. I want you all, after we're done with this live stream, to go and hit that poll and let me know. This is an idea that I've been floating around the channel in terms of doing in-game live streams. Not only myself and just myself. I hope you all like my commentary and my solo live streams, but also the usual suspects on this channel, Talking Mets with Rob and Nelson and even Pask from Sunny Days Media. Is that something that you all would want to see? I understand Gary, Keith, and Ron, GKR is something that you can't miss out on because those guys are the cream of the crop in terms of broadcasting. Give them their respects. But I'm talking about maybe sprinkling in a live stream here and there. You can have it playing on in the background. I'm not sure. Let me know what you think. This is just a spitball idea of what I have going for the channel, what I'm thinking in 2024. We did it in 2023, but we didn't do it nearly as much as I want to do it here in 2024. So let me know what you all think. But yeah, guys, this is what I wanted to talk about when it comes to this game, right? We got Starling Marte back in spring training action. It's great to see him out there. Went 0 for 2, took the 0 for 2, but it's nice that we see him. We haven't seen Harrison Bader yet. I'm surprised we've seen Starling Marte this early and not Harrison Bader. I think this is truly the Mets preserving these two guys that have well-known and well-documented injury histories to sort of mitigate them and rest them for the tail end of spring training before going into opening day. Starling Marte takes the 0 for 2, was very aggressive at the leadoff spot, opening up, swinging first pitch, driving a ball to deep right center field. We talk about opposite field approaches. Starling Marte, first swing of spring training for him, first swing of this game, went opposite field and almost put it out of the ballpark to the warning track, right up against the wall. Love to see that. Great at bat. I don't care if he swung first pitch as a leadoff batter. I don't care. If you're putting the ball over the fence or close to it, I like the trend there. Next at bat, a little sloppier. I believe it was a 3-pitch strikeout. Struck out swinging on an off-speed pitch that broke really late. I like to see that he's out there. Starling Marte is going to have a resurgent season if this Mets lineup wants to be as deep as it can possibly get. Because right now, if Brett Baty doesn't turn it on, if Starling Marte goes back to 2023 Marte, maybe if Jeff McNeil doesn't turn it back on to 2022 McNeil, and Mark Vientos doesn't do anything, this is a top-heavy lineup. After that 5th spot, whether you want to go Nimmo, Pete, Lindor, whatever, however you want to do it, Nimmo, Marte, Pete, Lindor, however you want to play, it doesn't matter. We're not talking about lineup construction. We'll talk about that later. This is a top-heavy lineup with Francisco Alvarez presumably maybe batting fifth. Although I would like to see somebody else batting fifth. If Pete Alonso's going to bat cleanup, it doesn't matter. It's a top-heavy lineup. So we need these guys to have resurgent seasons. We'll see what happens with Marte. Yeah, I agree, no name. I'm keeping it neutral on Marte right now. I'm keeping it neutral. I like the swing in the first at-bat. I like that he's out there. At least he's out there because we haven't seen Harrison Bader yet. So we'll see what happens with Harrison Bader. We'll see when we see him because that's going to be our starting center fielder to open up this season. I like that he's out there. Good to see Starling Marte out there. We'll see. Mark Vientos, I already went over, self-explanatory. The swings look okay, but not something that is we're going to judge after 5 games. Brett Baty is what I want to talk about here. And this is different because I, for one, am neutral on Mark Vientos' swings and his at-bats so far. He looks comfortable. It just looks like the results are not happening. Brett Baty, on the other hand, and you all can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't want to overreact. Brett Baty does not look comfortable in that box. He does not look comfortable. If Brett Baty was putting competent swings on the ball and he just wasn't getting base hits, I would be okay and we wouldn't even be talking about Brett Baty right now. But he is putting bad swings on the ball. Bad swings on the ball. Ricardo chiming in with the super chat of $5. I appreciate you, Ricardo. Thank you so much for tuning in and supporting the channel. I appreciate the super chat. Ricardo saying, think Baty and Vientos will start in the minors and the DH competition will be between Trace, Choi, and Voit. And Wendell or Jose Iglesias for the backup infield role. So I will say a lot of people have been talking about, and this conversation popped up in my live stream over on X earlier today. Someone asked me directly whether it would be feasible or acceptable for Brett Baty specifically to start off in AAA. And honestly, I just can't see it. I can't see it. This guy's 24 years old. We had infield prospects coming up right behind him, vying for those positions, and I just can't see him going back down to AAA. Listen, Brett Baty has proven everything he's needed to prove at AA, at AAA, and every other minor league level that he has glossed through in this organization. He is well documented as being a top prospect across the minor leagues, but he's 24 years old, and realistically, in my mind, this is the last opportunity for the New York Mets to see what they have in Brett Baty long term. This is the last opportunity. This guy is not 22 years old. He's not 21 years old like an Alex Ramirez. He doesn't have that next 2 to 3 years to figure it out. The time is right now for Brett Baty, and that's why I don't think the Mets can afford to start him off in AAA. But who knows? Stranger things have happened. Maybe it's a 1 month type of ordeal with Brett Baty. Maybe he starts off there and sort of gets acclimated and gets brought back up. I'm not sure. I don't think that makes sense to me. That's why I'm not foreseeing it happen, regardless of what happens in spring training. The way this offseason has shooken out with the acquisitions or lack thereof, however you want to call it, I think that no matter what we get or what we see in spring training, Brett Baty is your third baseman and Mark Vientos is your DH. In what capacity, I don't know. What type of leashes the Mets are going to give these guys in terms of if they come out the gate struggling, how long are they going to stick with these guys at those respective positions as starters? I don't know. Maybe if you're a Knicks fan, we have a Quentin Grimes situation 2.0, where he's the starting shooting guard and gets pulled midway for Dante DiVincenzo. Maybe we have the same situation on our hands comparing the Knicks and the Mets here this upcoming season. I don't know, because at this point for me, Brett Baty, and you can make the case for Mark Vientos as well because he's a great power hitter down there in AAA, but Brett Baty specifically is a gap-to-gap hitter at the AAA level with lift on his ball. And this is where we're going to talk about the ground ball percentages. He is a ground ball type of hitter at the major league level, but he's able to get lift on that ball in the minor leagues. Why is that such a random occurrence as soon as he comes up that he's not able to lift the ball in the air? But great question, though, Ricardo. Shout out for you supporting the channel, the super chat. I always appreciate it. Means a lot to me. Thank you for the support. So let's talk about that. What's going on with Brett Baty? Why is he having this inability to lift the ball in the air? We saw it, and if this was just a trend in spring training, only 5 games in, I wouldn't be talking about it. But you see here on the right-handed side of your screen, the red text, Brett Baty's ground ball percentage in 2023 was at 51.1%. The MLB average, we're talking about average here. We're talking about average. The MLB average in 2023, the ground ball percentage was 44.6. That is, in the grand scheme of things, as far as percentages go across these at-bats and plate appearances, that is a large discrepancy. He struggled with hitting the ball on the ground without success for the large part of 2023. And we're seeing it very early on here in spring training with Brett Baty. Now, he was able to sneak one of those ground balls up the middle for an infield hit, I believe, in his first game starting. That's great. We'll take that all day long. And we saw the same thing happen with Jett Williams today when he got subbed in and put into this lineup. Jett Williams, shout out to him. Second hit of his Mets career so far. Very excited about both Jett Williams and Drew Gilbert. And on a future live stream, we'll talk about Mike Vasil and Christian Scott because those guys probably are going to be pitching coming soon. We haven't seen them yet. But Brett Baty needs to figure out not only how to efficiently hit the ball to the opposite field like all of these vets are doing in Pete Alonso, Lindor, etc. so far early out, but he needs to get some lift on the ball. Get some lift on the ball because he's not incapable of doing it. He's not incapable. We've seen him kill it at each level of the minor leagues. So what is the X factor? To me, his timing looks off. Quite simple. His timing looks off. He looks uncomfortable. You take a look at that strikeout that he had today. He did not and was not in any position to swing at any of those off-speed pitches that he got in that at-bat. He looked buckled. His timing looked off, and he looked confused at the plate. So it's a comfort level thing for me. It's a timing thing for me for Brett Baty, and it's a confidence thing for me for Brett Baty right now. He doesn't look confident. He doesn't look comfortable, and his timing's off. All those things stacked up against you in a row is going to be very hard to be successful at the major league level against good competition. So we'll see. We'll see. That's all we can hope for is that he has a resurgent type season. So let's see here. Let's get into some comments here. No Name is saying exactly what I just said. They're feeding Brett Baty a large part of those off-speed pitches. He grounded out today in his first at-bat and then struck out before he was taken out of the game. Like I said, he did not look ready to swing at those breaking pitches. We'll see, and I'm going to continue to monitor this trend. I'm not saying this is the end-all, be-all with Brett Baty. Like I just said early in the stream, I think he's going to be the starting opening day third baseman. He's going to get his opportunity because the Mets want to see what they have in him for the future. But he just looks uncomfortable to me right now. That's it. You fix that, and he'll probably be good to go. Junior Swingman saying he's become too predictable at the plate. He watches too many pitches looking for the perfect one to hit. Yeah, I agree with you, Junior. It's a whole culmination of things. It's a whole combination of things with Brett Baty, it seems like. So I'm going to keep monitoring him. Like I said, I'm not writing him off. It's very hard for me as a guy that has this channel and talking about the New York Mets here very early on to spring training. I don't want to get into that territory of judging these players too early on into spring training. Everybody's still getting acclimated. They're shaking that offseason rust off, and I don't want to judge them too quickly. But when I start to notice increased trends like I am with Brett Baty that date all the way back to last season in the regular season, that's when I have to start taking it with a little bit more weight, if that makes sense. Let's see. I see Stevie in the chat over here. Baty would be a star in the Dubai leagues. Yeah. I mean, Who knows? I think, honestly, it could come down to a change of scenery with Brett Baty as well. Like, maybe he's just not playing he's not playing comfortably in New York in that spotlight. I hate to use that excuse for him because I feel like that's not a great excuse. But with some players, they just simply can't figure it out in New York. And you see them go on to a different place, a different scene, and have great careers. So maybe it's a comfortability thing with his environment. I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out. Way too early to judge. Yeah, I agree, Daniel. I'm just pointing out trends for you all. But that's what I had today, guys. Starling Marte, great to see him back. Trayce Thompson, can he get an opening day roster spot? The conversation and that competition surrounding DJ Stewart, Ji-Man Choi, and Trayce Thompson's becoming very, very interesting. And I didn't really talk too much about pitching today. It was kind of a boring and a snooze fest type of pitching performance from the Mets. They get the shutout, but we're talking about Grant Hartwig. We're talking about Reed Garrett. We're talking about Josh Walker and a bunch of other lower-end prospects. Like, I'm not saying they don't have any potential. Don't get me wrong, but it's not the type of excitement that I would get if, let's say, an Adrian Hauser or Luis Severino or even a Vasil, Scott, or Hamler on the mound. These guys are depth pieces that are going to be opening out their tenure with the 2024 New York Mets in the minor leagues. So I don't really put too much weight into Reed Garrett getting 2 strikeouts in a scoreless inning. I don't put too much weight into Josh Walker, same thing, although Josh Walker is the guy that we saw last year for the Mets. I was a lot more focused in on the offense today than the pitching. A lot more. And yes, John, I see you in the chat. I know you're always negative. You fall on that side of the Mets fan base, and more power to you. It's all right. It's all right, man. It's going to be okay. I promise you. This team is going to be fine. I know you don't want to hear it, but it's going to be fine. Ricardo's saying, CP, is there any scenario where you see Trayce Thompson making the opening day roster? If so, in front of who? Yes, Ricardo, this is something that I believe I was mentioning and talking back on this live stream about. I think that he might have the ability to take DJ Stewart's roster spot on opening day if he keeps this up. By simple nature, the fact that there will be 3 lefties on that bench if DJ Stewart makes the team, and DJ Stewart having that minor league option. There's no harm, no foul with starting DJ Stewart off in AAA. I think that Trayce Thompson can definitely be that player to make probably the last roster spot that's open up for grabs on the offensive side of things for the New York Mets. Great question, and I did address that earlier, but just to rehash that and give you the Spark Notes version, that is what I think. But yeah, guys, this is all I have for you all. I'll worry about Baty in 2 weeks from now. Jay says, yeah, I think maybe it's a timing thing. Maybe he just has to get acclimated. I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. But like I said, I would be lying to you all if I wasn't coming on here and not talking about Brett Baty and saying that I am watching Brett Baty's at-bats closely. I think everybody should. And this is just something we're going to have to see how it progresses. But nonetheless, if you all are in the chat, make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button. I thoroughly appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed. Bottom right-hand corner, you'll see that orange subscribe button. Make sure you subscribe. And the channel membership option is now live. We have the True to the Orange and Blue membership. We have the We Bleed Orange and Blue membership at respective pricing. You get custom emojis that you all can use in these live streams. Polar Pete emoji, Francisco Lindor emoji, and a whole lot more because they're going to be rotating. Got a sweet long sleeve CP New York Sports long sleeve shirt. If you want one of those, hit me up. Make sure you are joining the We Bleed Orange and Blue. You'll get it for free. You'll get it for free with that membership. You know where to find me at CPNY Sports. And as always, I appreciate the support. Thank you so much to all you all. I hope you enjoyed this. I will be out of town as a disclaimer here in the next couple of days. We'll see if I can get any content out. We'll see how the hotel Wi-Fi is. So if it's a little quiet on my front, don't be surprised. I will be gone till about Tuesday of next week, starting tomorrow. I appreciate you all rocking with me. As always, you know what it is. This is the True Mets Talk podcast, Mets spring training live stream. I hope you all enjoyed. Thank you so much for popping out. No Name, Darren, Daniel, Jr. Thank you all so much. Even John, even your negative takes, John. I appreciate you even being here. That's how much I appreciate you all, subscribers of this channel. You all mean a lot to me, and we will have a great season. And shout out to you, Mike Lowe, as well, saying Beatty has higher trade value in 24, tearing it up than AAA, hitting 186 with the big club. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. That's a great point. That's a great point. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Enough of me. Go and pay attention to the Till Mets Do Us Part podcast. A little shameless plugging for them. Those boys are going live here, I believe, in just about a minute. I'm going to tap in over there in their live stream. Make sure you're subscribing and get them to 700 subscribers. It's your boy CP. Until the next time, I'm out. Peace.
Thank you for watching the latest episode of the CP New York Sports Pod. If you enjoyed this content, make sure you hit that thumbs up, comment your thoughts and opinions, and use the lower right-hand button of this video to subscribe to the channel.